touch the earth, touch the earth, touch the earth. Painful journey unknown. It's a long way from home.
Yate, everyone. Thank you very much for being here this evening. This is the Wednesday evening Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle event. And as always, we want to take this time to acknowledge the traditional owners and ancestors of the tribal lands Okapoge Owinge, also known as Santa Fe. We reside, and thank you all for blessing us. We want to take this time to offer condolences to Dr. Nolani Arista, who was originally scheduled for tonight, and her family is in a process of saying their goodbyes to their father, who just passed in Hawaii. So we are holding Nolani and family in our hearts. And saying that, we're also very grateful to Lucy Tampahanso, who rescheduled from December to be with us now. So here, Lucy, and just a quick intro, I'd like to tell you that Lucy Tapahanso has been in the Indigenous circuit of writers for quite a while now, and Lucy's mother tongue is in Navajo, and she learned English in boarding school on the Navajo Nation. Her discovery into the English language is very unique because as an English second language learner, she has ascended to become the top of her game on a world stage with English language as her vehicle. English language is like a conduit for her to get her Navajo worldviews out in a way that takes us away from a linear structure of syntax and semantics and pragmatics and morphemes and all that stuff that comes with the English language. But she's able to convey that Navajo thought process in the Navajo cultural way, which is very sacred and matriarchal in the Navajo, also known as Dene culture's own right. So Lucy's been awarded with multiple honors, fellowships, awards, and is always of service to the people for purposes of information. And she maintains her sacred identity and is an extremely elegant Dene matriarch. And everyone, please welcome Lucy Tapahansi to Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. Woo!
Yeah.
All right, Lucy. Oh, yeah. Let's hear about you. Why don't you tell us about your life story?
Okay. She Lucy Tapahansi. Das net what the ojangle. Dort could it eat in Bash's chain. Dash cheating dash che. Dog can let cheating dash nalle. Not any nest, Gesina sha. No kunde quiet what the Gatchalan. I am originally from Shiprock, where I lived until I went to college, and am now living in Santa Fe after having lived in Lawrence, Kansas, Albuquerque, and Tucson, Arizona. I taught at those 3 state universities, New Mexico, Kansas, and Arizona, and retired a few years ago after 33 years. I can't believe it that I've been, I had been in academia for that long. I started writing in English because when I went to school, we had to learn to write English. We had to write, the physical act of writing was in English. So I associated writing with English rather than Navajo, even though I could, I could sort of probably translate things into Navajo. From Navajo into English quite easily. But the writing for me, even today, is very much a physical act. We used to write on Big Chief tablets. I know people remember that. And then we had like these thick yellow pencils. And I really liked the sound of the pencil on the page. And so today I journal every day, and I just love the sound, still love that sound. When I learned to read, it was really kind of a freeing experience for me, because I was lonely when I went to boarding school. I grew up with a lot of my family, and I have a lot of sisters and brothers, and we grew up, as many families do, in a pretty small home by today's standards. But I was so used to being with them all the time that when I went to school, I was really lonely. I miss all the noise and the cooking and everything. But when I learned to read, that was kind of a salvation for me, because I could go to the library and check out books and read. And then I used to, there was of course, no books that had Navajos in it, or that even mentioned Shiprock. So I used to copy books, but then place the stories at home, make the settings in Shiprock or around the res, and then put my dogs in and my sisters and brothers. So I would sure rewrite all the stories so they were more appealing to me. Little did I know I was plagiarizing, but that was a long time ago. So when I went to college, I began to, I was in journalism because I always liked writing. Then I took a class from Leslie Silko in poetry. It was an elective. And then after that, I was hooked. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I was so surprised too that she was really happy about my work. I want to just show you, these were two of the first poems I wrote in her class. And this kind of shows you like how I was using a Navajo syntax, but writing in English. I was translating from Navajo into English. So you sort of see that the structure is a little different. This poem's real popular because it was about Shiaj, my mother's brother. We used to call him Shidayaj. We were always so happy when we saw him. And later on, I realized that he was really my Yaj, that he was my brother's Dai. But we all ran to him at the same time, and we would say, Shidayaj, Shidayaj. So anyway, this is about him. It's called Hills Brothers Coffee. My uncle is a small man. In Navajo, we call him Shidayaj, my mother's brother. He doesn't know English, but his name in the white way is Tom Jim. He lives about a mile or so down the road from our house. One morning, he sat in the kitchen drinking coffee. I just came over, he said. The store is where I'm going to. He tells me about how my mother seems to be gone every time he comes over. Maybe she sees me coming, then runs and jumps in her car and speeds away, he says, smiling. We both laugh just to think of my mother jumping in her car and speeding. I pour him more coffee and he spoons in sugar and cream until it looks almost like a chocolate shake. Then he sees the coffee can. Oh, that's that coffee with the man in a dress, like a church man. Oh, that's the one that does it for me. Very good coffee. I sit down again and he tells me, Some coffee has no kick, but this one is the one. It does it good for me. I pour us both a cup, and while we wait for my mother, his eyes crinkle with a smile, and he says, yes, yes, this is the very one, putting in more sugar and cream. So I usually buy Hills Brothers coffee once or sometimes twice a day. I drink a hot coffee and it sure does it for me.
That's a good one.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. So tell us about writing in Navajo and English and how one informs the other, and what do they bring to each other. And you mentioned that your process, how does it work when you're working with, like, I imagine sometimes you have a Navajo audience, like if you're doing something on the reservation and you have Navajo speaking audience, so you can really talk in Navajo with all the vernaculars and dialect and all that. And then when you're away from the ESL Navajo audience, meaning English second language learners, and you go into another country where they're also ESL, because obviously English has pretty much almost taken, really almost conquered the world. Does it feel different? What does it feel differently when you're with Navajo people and when you're with other ESL audiences?
I think it does. You know, when I'm reading to a primarily Navajo audience, they really have a sense already of what I'm talking about. So, you know, like if I tell them that this is a poem translated from Navajo, the part they know that where the part where I say, my uncle says, I just came over, the store is where I'm going to. He said, he said, Kin Godiya, you know, I'm just kind of going by, or, you know, so I think people pick up on that, but there's so much that kind of nuances in the way Navajos talk English that it becomes obvious too, because they understand that Hills Brothers coffee has a particular picture, and they know what the translation means. When he says the man from the church, Etna Shorty, you know, the Catholics, and on the coffee has an Arabian man like this with his long robes. So he thought it was the Catholics' coffee. So Navajo people kind of you know, it's like the inside joke. They know that. But then it's like when we talk English as Navajos, it's really specific and very precise, very vivid. So, you know, people just say whatever they're going to say in English. It's really clear and it's crisp and to the point.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think it's a little different, but then wherever I travel, there's always people that are indigenous to the land that I'm visiting, and they understand like the origins of the language, that I speak English, but it's probably the kind of, in a way, similar to the English they speak. So, you know, and it really speaks to, I think, indigenous people all over, all the places I've been. They understand the land and the relationships between people, the dogs and the food, cooking, and, you know, getting together. So there's some things that cross language barriers and, you know, just are able to really bring us together. I want to read the other poem that I mentioned, and this one's called Raisin Eyes, and it's written that in that same time frame. And these two poems were the first ones that were published. This is called Raisin Eyes. And if you're from the res, you'll recognize a lot of places and things here. I
Right.
saw my friend Ella with a tall cowboy at the store the other day in Shiprock. Later, I asked her, "Who's that guy anyway?" "Oh, Lucy," she said, "I knew what was coming. It's terrible. He lives with me and my money and my car. But just for a while, he's an AIRCA and rodeos a lot. And I still work. This rodeo business is getting to me, you know. And I'm going to leave him because I think all of this I'm doing now will pay off better somewhere else. But I just stay with him. And it's hard because he just smiles that way, you know. And then I end up paying entry fees and putting shiny Tony llamas on layaway again. It's not hard. But he doesn't know when I'll leave him, and I'll drive across the flat desert from Red Valley and Blue Morning Light straight to Shiprock so easily. And anyway, my car is already used to humming a morning song with Gary Stewart, complaining again of aching and breaking down and out love affairs. Damn, these Navajo cowboys with raisin eyes and pointed boots are just bad news. But it's so hard to remember that all the time, she said with a little laugh.
Oh, that is too cool. That is so Navajo. I mean, I'm just like thinking about my aunties. I'm like, are any of my aunties here tonight? Anyways, thinking about my uncle. They come from a rodeo family too. So, but one that is just so right, spot on. You know, that Red Valley and Shiprock
and driving. It's always like,
yeah, it's just that road. You've been driving out of Shiprock. So yeah, nice. And then when you were talking about the Navajo language and English, I was thinking about you meeting with one of our Navajo elders on the reservation, and you're showing your poetry, but they can't understand the English. So you have to say, you know, I want to interpret this for you. I wrote this in English, and then you say, like, you know, I'm thinking about the Etna Shodi, and you know, thinking about the Etna Shodi is like clothes that's, you think of almost like this cloak, cape that a priest wears, and you can just see them moving. You can almost see wind, you know, just Itna showed, you know, the priest cruise into the church. And there's so much verbiage in the Navajo language that the English is missing out on. So even if you're talking about riding on a horse, in English, you can put all these different nuances to it. But in the Navajo, you're actually on the horse if you're listening to it. And it's so
really
beautiful.
true. Sometimes when one of the examples I use when I'm talking about poetry and how succinct it is and an example from Navajo. You know, a person can say, and you know that just from that, not even later, just the horse, there's somebody on a horse, they're almost parallel to the ground. They're going real fast. And whoever it is leaning over. It has to be outside because they can't go that fast indoors. And it has to be like flat ground. You can kind of see the dust in that. They're both going, you know, they're just going to, and that's just the image by itself. And think four syllables, and you can imagine all that. So that's an example of how Navajo is just like so visual and emotional, and it tells you where things are taking place without you saying "oh, the lady." You
even
know,
that inflection right there, late. It's like just goes when you do that, hey, it goes like, wait,
oh,
no,
so,
not so. Yeah, just
so,
all
that's
that,
it.
that inflection, and it's
Mhm.
really interesting because, like with sign language, our brother here, Chris, he's one of the masters of the language, and he can put all that on his face with the non-manual signals, the inflections. No, it's just so
It's,
amazing to
yeah,
be.
it really is. So we come from a language that's so rich, that's
Yes.
both original and always changing. It's just really quite amazing.
Oh,
So these poems, if I could, these poems are like right from Navajo experience. I want to read a poem that's in fixed form, which means it's a Western form that was invented centuries ago. This is a poem that's called Sestina, and it's French. It
yeah.
is the Song of Sixes. It has 6 stanzas. It uses the six same words at the end of each line. And then it has 6 stanzas, 6 lines in each stanza, and it ends with a tercet or an envoy, which is 3 lines at the end. It has 3 of the words in the middle of the lines and 3 of the words at the end of the lines. So I'll just read this, and you can sort of see how the pattern fits really well for Navajo's story.
Oh, nice. Okay, I can't
And
wait.
it's a French form, so
Okay.
a sestina. This is called addendum to the canon. It speaks
Mhm.
very much to the time when I was a teenager. American literature would not be complete without a chapter on stomp dances featuring the Fenders or the Wingate Valley Boys. Life in the 1960s and 70s revolved around chapter house dances at Tohatchi, Isnasbas, or Chinle. We were shy res teenagers, but when dance posters appeared, the dull school week took on a frenzy, sense unrivaled. My sisters and I shrieked under our breaths at the announcements on KNDN, the All Navajo All the Time station. Call of the Wild, my mom pronounced her only English words that day. The dance was a glimmer of hope in that chapter of lowly adolescence. By midweek, we were in a quiet plotting frenzy, breaking up coal, eagerly washing dishes, chopping firewood, all family building tasks. We secured a trustworthy ride to ease parental hesitation. After a unified and dignified request, our parents said to the dance, but only if we promised to stay together and not tease or dance with clan relatives. Yeah, they warned, pronouncing certain doom. We nodded in unison, being familiar with reservation mandates. That evening, we waited in a state of rapture at the crossroad junction for what seemed like a lifetime for a cousin who agreed to drive us after our frenzied begging. We settled on pressed Wranglers and rough-out boots after a frenzy of trying on clothes. But now, as the sun set, things did not look well. The dance began and no ride in sight. All of that planning and work. Now surely life as we knew it would be over if we were seen standing alongside the road as if to announce the non-existent ride. But we couldn't go home after everything. This unforeseen chapter forced us to think hard, then take the road less traveled, the irrigation ditch. The rest of the now oft-told tale allows us to how the carefully carved scared res desperados set out in the dark ditch of burnt weeds, dead brush, and cockleburrs. The frenzy, weary Aquanet escapees were fiercely intent on getting to the chapter house 4 miles away. Upon hearing the muffled drums and steel guitars, we pranced out of the ditch and stepped warily into the streetlight, as if to renounce our sins. We dust the soot off, smooth each other's hair, relieved to be alive for another Valley Boys dance. Then, just like that, life's good fortune dimmed when we discovered we had no money. We argued res style, scolding, pushing, blaming each other in loud whispers. Then they announced that I, as the youngest, had to borrow the money. Just as I began a fuming frenzy, we spotted that cute Yazzie guy. They pushed me forth to dance wordwise with him. He donated $20 and we entered the dim chapter house. The dance floor was rife with cowboy hats circling. Then, alas, my uncle appeared. His eyes announced our peril. We left in distraught single file, weak from hairspray, fatigue, and burnt weeds. He seated us to our mom and aunties. It's still unbearable to recall the next week of field work, chopping wood, and just work.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. Oh, wow.
Thank you.
So poetry is just such a dignified packing of words, and every line has a full throttle image of just one line and one stanza carries so much power with, a mixture of abstractions and real life, figures. And there's so many questions I have for you about your working relationship you have with writing. You say you write and you journal, and your childhood memory is that sound on the paper with the what is it? What do you call that? The pencil?
Pencil on paper.
Yeah, I mean, just that in itself is a poem, and you could just write a poem with that in itself. And I'm really curious about how I know you said you took a class. Did you say with Leslie Marmon Soko? You took a class with her, and then did the poetry just jump out at you, or did you hear it, study it, and learn some of the different styles and techniques, and then say, I want to give a go at that? And my most fixated curiosity is about the Navajo language, in it all, because just to be able to think in Navajo and to put it into poetry, even like you did with that last piece you wrote. Can you talk to us, people out here that maybe want to learn how to write poetry? How do you do it?
Well, I grew up in a household in which we had radio, but we didn't have TV, and we didn't have electricity until maybe I was in, junior high or something. So, and there was a lot of us, and we had always had relatives living with us. So there was a lot of intergenerational, things going on, cooking together, eating together, taking care of the babies and trying to break up fights between siblings and all kinds of things. So it was a very, just a really active household. But then my parents really instilled in us like that we should respect when an older person is talking. They would say, And that meant we would all listen, and we all quieted down and listen. And when if it was my mother or my father, they would always tell us things, but then in a voice that wasn't scolding, but that was really informational. We could tell by their tone that we had to listen. And so there was a lot of that kind of probably encouragement to listen, and then to tell stories, to remember, and then they would say, listen to this, because when your little brother or sister's your age, you're going to have to tell them that. So we really there was very much emphasis on respect and remembering and listening, whether it was songs or prayers or stories. And then we didn't have a radio in our car. We had one pickup, and my father used to sing Navajo songs whenever we went places. We would be working out in the fields, and my mother would start telling stories. And it was just like a way for us to concentrate on what we're doing, but also to like value each other's company. So it was really like steeped in oral tradition. And then when I was in junior high, I started keeping a journal, and I've kept a journal since. I just liked writing, and I went into journalism, and I used to write for different newspapers and that sort of thing. But when I found poetry, I used to write poetry, but after I took that class, that's when I and Leslie really encouraged me. I was really shy, and I was so embarrassed. I used to, when I read my poems, I would just be shaking. You had to read your poems in class, and I felt like I was going to cry. And but she very much encouraged me. And then, so that was like really an impetus to delve into it more, and then also to study it, because I had a good basic understanding of Navajo oral literature, but I didn't really know that much about Western form. And I really wanted to learn, so I was really interested in learning about the history, and then about how different forms came about. And it turned out that, even in Western literature, the beginning of poetry were people who went around to different villages in Europe and told stories. They would get called to come by the head of a town to come and talk to the people. And they were really valued for that. They weren't, wasn't later that they were written down. So it was, the history too in Europe was very much all over, I think, was really originated with stories and memory, and then the ties to the land. So then I began to really, look into, and I appreciate all kinds of written literature. And then eventually, after, I finished college, I began to teach. And at that point, I was probably the only teacher. A lot of students had who was Navajo. And it was I was in a position to teach from a Navajo point of view. So that meant that I taught them about the adage that the sacred begins at the tip of my tongue. So whatever a person says is sacred. And so we don't have words in Navajo that words of profanity. And then we also don't, like you can't, I don't think you can really say that you're sorry. So words, the spoken word is so important in our history, in our culture. And it's all related to, Hozhonje. And people really respect that. And So, that's why like Hatakashis and storytellers are really valued, because everything they share with us is what they have remembered and what they know, not what they have learned in books. So there's still that, I think there's still that respect for, a lot of respect for Hatakashis and doing ceremonies. And we saw that just this past weekend, with the eclipse, that a lot of people did observe the eclipse the way that we're supposed to. And so, I think it's really important that it all relates to the idea of Huzhonje.
Oh, and can you take this time to explain to the people that might not be familiar with Hozhonje, and just explain the basic meaning of Hozhonje?
Huzhon. There's different ways of talking about it. One of them is that so Huzhon is a lot of people translate it to beauty, but I think it's more to balance, like to have everything balanced out. Everything can't be good all the time. There's always a balance of good and bad. The way you approach it is what counts. That's Huzhonje, when you can look at things and figure out what you're going to do without being impulsive and overreacting. So I like to tell people that that when people say yat'e, it doesn't mean just hello or hi. That yat'e is part of Yadashkesh or Jo'ane, our Father, the Sun. So it's like acknowledging the sky and the sun. And then is like now San, our Mother Earth. Where we're at on this land, we're supported by our mother, the earth. And she supports us and she comforts us, she strengthens us and feeds us. Wherever we go, we're always supported by her, and we grow skyward towards our Father. And we're known as Earth surface people. So we are, we exist here on this earth with our Father above us, and we're supported by our mother. And then when they say that means that's the way it is. It's beautiful because we have our Father above. Our mother, we're right in the middle, and they will always care for us. They have cared for us from the beginning, and they'll continue to care for us and our children and our grandchildren. So we go forth then remembering that and thinking about what those, what they embody, what those entities embody. And, we have to breathe, and we have to have water, and they make sure we have all those things. And it's our job to go forward in a way that honors that. So that's, I think, to me, that's what they mean when they say, I'm going forth in a very good way. In front of me, behind me, below me, above me. I'm surrounded by very good spirits, a very good way of thinking that I can't forget it, and that it guides me all the time. So.
Wow, that is just the medicine we need at this time, Lucy. Thank you for sharing that.
You.
There's so much happening right now, and it's heavy. It's heavy on everybody's heart, and it's difficult. And, so you coming onto our show tonight is blessing all of us with your medicine, your beautiful walk in life, your beautiful energy, your essence, your aura. And, I have so much to ask you. I was really curious about how your perspective is about how our youth is taken to this. Nobody goes anywhere without this anymore. And how does that impact the spoken word, how does that impact the attention span of when we would sit around on the floor in the Hogan and just listen to our Masanis and Chays tell their
Mm,
stories, and we'll just get lost in
mm,
the stories. But let's do that for another chapter. The last question I
mm.
want to ask you, and then I'm going to do a commercial break, and Elena will tell us what's going on with Indigenous Ways, is what does the word gathering mean to you? That's our theme.
You know, a gathering is really like at the crux of, I think everything we do is Navajos. We had a chinalta for my granddaughter over the summer, and a medicine woman I was talking to told me that chinalta means the community coming together. Chin, you know, it's like a town. Nalta, they all come together, and when you run, then you know you walk. I mean, nalta really implies moving about together as a community. And in everything we do, you know, when we have a first laugh party for a dinner for a baby, you invite everybody you can that will be that you know, so that the more people you have and the more food and the more blessings you get, but the more people that are there means that the baby will never be lonely. The baby will always have relatives, and that the baby will always be generous, and that there'll always be like humor, you know, because of celebrating a laugh. And so, and the same with the kinata. If you're blessed to have a lot of people come and help you out and be there for you, you know, what more could you ask for? There's so much love in that. When you have any kind of a gathering, like when somebody goes off to college, when somebody takes a new job, or when they move, you know, everyone, they say, let's eat for them because they're going to be moving. But eating for them, it really means let's bless them. Let's let them know that we're here, that we're going to be thinking about them. And sure enough, at those times, people always stand up and talk, you know, and to talk means to express your love, to give comfort, to offer your strength, the whole group, not just yourself. So I think that's what gathering means to me. We're always like moving from one group of people to another.
Well, you're making me homesick for Zitli Jean.
Oh.
So I've got relatives at Zitli Sado, Zitli Jean. So my mom's in Chinle. She should be on tonight. My aunt should be here too. So I'm gonna pass it over to Elena.
All right, thank you.
Here, Lucy Tapahanzo, and blessing us with your beautiful medicine, your words. Just hit deeply for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you know, the laughter medicine as well with your wonderful pieces. And I am very, very excited because I'm going to be heading home to Aotearoa, New Zealand at the end of November. So as you were talking about your siblings and Re's life and growing up, and I just cannot wait to see my aunties, uncles, dad. We're going over to Samoa and seeing my mother, and also spending some time in Australia as well for the next 2 months. Nice. So very, very excited.
Be nice and warm there.
Totally. That's another great reason. Ditch the winter. So thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful medicine that you shared with us. I'm just going to go into a quick commercial break with what's been going on in the next month. We have the beautiful Jean Braverock, who is a Canadian actor who will be here this time, third Wednesday of the month, 6 to 7 Mountain Time. That's the 15th of November. Gene is an actor, and you may have seen him in Darkwings as the actor Frank Nakai. He's also played the role of Chief in Wonder Woman, which was released in 2007. So he's going to be blessing us here. We'll be doing this again, and you may have some Q&A afterwards, like when I finish this. We're going to encourage everyone to come on if you've got any questions or just want to say hi or anything like that. Now, this wonderful video archive of Lucy Tapahanso will be available in our archives, IndigenousWays.org. She will be there available in the next 24 hours with the over 200 presenters that we've had, Native American, Indigenous, LGBTQIA2+, our deaf and hard of presenters that have come through since April 2020 when we started this, and keeping our communities connected. So you can go there and have a look. When Lucy Tapahanso's beautiful video comes out, please share that with all of your peeps. You can also subscribe at our website on the homepage, IndigenousWays.org, to our newsletter so you know what's going on. We've just finished our 2023 season of having the festival season, which was a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that again in 2024. Below me, you'll see flashing across the screen all of our social media. So if you're beaming in through social media, please like our pages wherever you're on. You'll notice that there's new URLs or new handles. We are transferring from the Indigenous Ways 501c3 to just Indigenous Ways. So that's what we've got going on below. We'd love to see you there. Pop in and subscribe and say hi. And also tonight, you would have seen our two extraordinary ASL interpreters. Right now, we have the beautiful Crescentiano Garcia beaming in from California, who's blessed us, making access available to all, as well as the beautiful Mariah Garcia, no, not related, who has made interpreting accessible. We've done this from our very first show, April 1st, 2020. Now, all of these shows that we've done, the Indigenous Ways Circle, we were also doing the Indigenous Ways concert series, was possible thanks to the National Endowments of the Arts, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, that's the Envision Fund, and also the New Mexico Arts. I want to give a big shout out to our board members, Rachel Pueblo, who was on social media and popped on here, Homer Hubble, also Judy Shapiro that is here, and also to all of our individual donors that have been investing in our programs, making all of this possible. Thank you. If you're able to donate, we've got PayPal, there's Venmo, there's snail mail with the address here, or you can go to our website, IndigenousWays.org. Keep this habit going and spotlighting extraordinary presenters, people like Lucy Tapahanso that is with us at the moment, making her voice raised and known. Now, this is that wonderful time now where we're going to get each of you, if you want to start your video, and if you've got any questions or you just want to say hi, now is the time. Or people are figuring out where their videos and where their microphones are on Zoom. I just want to give a shout out from our wonderful social media end. We had Christine Powers, on Annette Amara from Texas, Christina Bueno from New York, Marcelina Martin, who was on, VoxFem, who are in San Antonio in Texas. They made a comment saying, "We love listening to Lucy Tapahanzo, so rich." So with that, Tash, I'm going to flick that over to you.
All right. So absolutely. Thank you. Let's hear from Rachel Pablo. How you doing, sister? I am
Miss Tabahanzo, I just wanted to say hello and thank you for sharing, and it was wonderful to hear the wise words that you've shared, and I just wanted to say hi. Okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. It's so great to see you. Before you say anything else, Tash, I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Robert Martin, who is not only the president of the Institute of American Indian Arts, but he is also the beloved wife of Lucy Tapahanzo. Thank you so much for being here. And you two are a power couple with all that you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Elena, you mean husband. Elena, you mean husband. You said
wife.
What
did I say?
You said wife, husband.
Oh, my wife, husband, wife, all the same.
Yeah.
Our husband, beautiful husband.
Yes. Yep, that's my guy right there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice seeing you, Rochelle.
All right, let's go on over to Michelle Redman, lawyer for the Navajo Nation, is with us tonight. President of Indigenous Ways as well. Thank you for being with us, Michelle.
Yeah, I was so happy to hear your discussion and all the things that it brought up in me from the cultural aspect and the touching feelings that I felt listening to your poetry was just it was so heartfelt, and I could visualize everything that you were saying in your poetry, whether it was in English or Navajo, because you're very descriptive in the way you do your poetry, even with the English language, you know. And so I was very touched by that, and it brought memories back of being up at my grandma's sheep camp and the coffee. And for us, it's the Folgers. That's the good one. and so we just really loved the Folgers, and but just all the things that we do together as a family. That it's very meaningful, and it really binds us and brings us so much closer. And my daughter had a laughing ceremony when she had her first belly laugh from the bottom of her stomach. And then she had the kinesta when that came time for her moon cycle. And each time there was always lots of family that were involved, that came and participated and nurtured her and loved her and let her know that they were supportive of her walk on this earth, and that, you know, they wanted her to be happy and they wanted her to have a good journey. So I really believe in the ceremonies and our way of life, and the way that we do things is very precious. And
it is.
And I love the way
you.
Yeah, I love the way you just. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing that I didn't mention, but I think was alluded to, was that when we have these ceremonies, like the first laugh in the kinalta, the person that we're having it for embodies a holy person. They become changing women. So that's one of the reasons. Not only do we go to these ceremonies because we love the family member, but we are also blessed too. In return, they bless us. So that's you don't have that chance often to encounter a holy person. but that's who our family members are. Then the babies are white shell girl or changing woman, or the Kinaldao is changing woman. That's why we run behind her, so we can get her blessings. So that's really part of it too. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Thanks.
Okay, we got a quick word from Sue. Sue, would you like to say hi from New Hampshire? Okay, you're muted, Sue.
Hi, thank you. I just want to thank you so much for sharing this evening. I feel like you took me home and introduced me to your family and your culture and your way of thinking, and how words put together and selected reflect so much more than what the dictionary says. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for translating.
And Velma Hale. Hello, Velma. Would you like to say something?
I'm a professor here at Diné College with the English division. I'm also the School of Arts Humanities chair for that division. And so it's nice to see your presentation and then also bring in that Indigenous sovereignty to reclaim it through language. Yeah, and then we do need that perspective from that both epistemologies, because a lot of our young students want to know the clarification why a certain you bring in the English part. And I think that's something we need to make learning relevant for our student. And that's the same thing with science too, just like what you're talking about. We have our own perspective of Navajo science, but it was never acknowledged as that. But when you come to study both worlds, then you become to revalidate that there is that sovereignty. It was there all along. So, but thank you for bringing out your work. I
think it's really important to think about these things, because it really makes you stronger. You just feel out, I really am the person that my parents hope I would be. You just feel really strong, and just it really strengthens and it comforts you. You just feel like you can do whatever you want. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, if you see Velma Hale, if you see Paul Walletto, tell him Tasha said hi. I was one of his students at Diné College when it was Navajo Community College.
I think his wife is on our view here, Karen Walletto.
I saw Karen. Yeah.
Oh my
Paul
gosh,
is my
Karen,
little brother.
Oh, I love Paul. I still remember him from when I was just I was a teenager actually when I was in his class. I wrote a play. I still remember that play. It was called The Impossible. That was a long time ago. Produced, yeah. Anyways, all right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and call it a night here. Judy Shapiro, our board member, is here from Washington, D.C. We love you, Judy. Thank you for being doing all the work for our Native American people. She's also a federal Indian policy lawyer and has been for 40 years. So she's fighting to fight for us, Judy. Thank you for doing what you do for our Indigenous people all over America. Thank you, Judy. We love you. Thank you, ASL interpreters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy Tapahansi.
And just before we sign off, we've also got Molly Big Knife, Dr. Molly Big Knife, who's here, who was
Antonio.
our guest last month. Also, thank you everyone for beaming in live, whether you're on social media or here on Zoom. A big shout out to our interpreters, Mariah, and also Chris Essiano. We'll look forward to seeing each and every one of you here November 15, same time, same channel, with the wonderful Jean Braverock. But least of all, let's please give it up for the one and only extraordinary being Lucy Tapahanzo.
That's a
Thank
poem in
you.
itself. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Thank
everybody.
you very
Much
much.
love. Stay beautiful, stay
Thanks.
peaceful,
Feel
everybody.
my face,
Thank you.
touch the earth.